Welcome to another episode of Straight Up Chicago Investor Podcast. I'm your guest, K-Rock, and with me, as always, is your hosts, Tom and Mark.
So episode 400, dude. Like,
Woo!
This is it, man. Like,
I'm also trusting you counted right. It's going to be awkward if this comes out at $3.99. I'm a little concerned.
Wait, someone's going to go, I never saw episode 398.
Yeah. I'm a little worried that we might have to switch up the order. So I'm just trusting you, but that this is 400.
well, it's 400. It hits just after 5 years. Like, so you think we would have made it this far? I mean, back in the day, like 5 years ago?
I never thought that far ahead. Like it was always just, it was just, all right, do we have another guest for next week? Like it was always just like, it was always just, can we get to this? Can we get to this? Can we get to this? I feel so. No, I'm very proud, and I thank you for everything that you've done here. This is awesome.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. I think you've said this before too, but the amount of things that we've done consistently for this many weeks in a row is very few things in our entire life. And for somehow we've found a way to successfully get an episode out there every single week, no matter what. Like that's I'm pretty amazed just knowing you and me.
That is tough. Like that is accountability from the listeners. Like we got to a point very early on where we couldn't let people down because people listen. Yep. So that's all. Thank you, listeners, for and then if we had like bad audio quality or something went wrong, like people would text me, and I was like, oh my god, people care.
Yeah.
All right, this feels good.
Wow.
And then just because this is a monumental episode, like
potentially, we don't know if this is 400.
What has always motivated me was just all the success stories. Like we've seen people go from 0 properties to 10 properties or buying their first property. It may take them a year, but they've gone on this journey with us. And that's pretty cool when we get those that feedback, those type of messages.
Any of those messages, any of those, like we'll get maybe once a month that person who writes in and just says that. And it's like, goddamn, like we did something here, right? Like you talk about having impact or whatever like that. That's what I'll remember over whatever deal.
And that was our goal when we set off. If we think about it, you and me loved bigger pockets, but it just wasn't granular enough. It wasn't city focused. There wasn't enough content on there about the Chicago.
It's fluffy. I'll say it.
Fluffy, yeah. And that's really what we did. And then we've created tons of content. And if you ever go on YouTube and Google Chicago real estate investing, like there's tons of stuff that we put out there that adds value. So we're kind of just propping ourselves up, but it feels good though.
Yeah, we get that. Every 400 episodes, we can do that for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But all right, enough about us. This guest is phenomenal. Before you go into your tip, this is one of heavy hitter. It took us a while to get him on. So glad we did. Such a great story. Numerous successful careers, right? And it just reminds you that there's so much potential out there. There's so many things that we're capable of.
Well, I love the saying, we overestimate what we could do in a year, but we underestimate what we could do in 10 years.
Yes, exactly. So, expand your horizon, thinking long term. All right, housing provider tip. Let's do it.
All right, so our housing provider tip of the week is around insurance, right? We keep hearing these pain points around insurance going up. My premium doubled. I can't buy the property because insurance is too much. One thing I want to throw out there that people are not doing, and it's worked successfully for me, is you might have got a quote a few years ago. You might be with the same person, but in that time, you went and upgraded your electric, or you put all new mechanicals, or you have a new roof on there now, especially with the flat roofs. If you have a brand new roof versus the roof when you got the insurance quote that was 40 years old, man, that affects your premium. So one way you could go is go to your insurance broker and make sure that you have them updated on your updates, the bigger, larger CapEx mechanicals to your building, because that's ultimately what's affecting how much you're paying or not paying.
Today's guest, bring him in.
All right. Well, today's
Heavy
guest.
hitter alert.
Well, man, he sent his bio, and I'm like, I can't memorize this. And all these awards, these acronyms, like this guy, we'll put all that in the show notes because we want to make sure you get the credit. But today's guest, I mean, he's like Tom said, you've had multiple careers, you've done so much, and the amazing part of it is you give so much back. And it sounds like when we get into this episode today, you've done that your whole time, and that's what's probably brought you a lot of success. But without further ado, want to bring in Kevin Rocio. All right, Kevin.
Hi.
Man, getting you on the show is huge. Episode 400, that we wanted to make sure we had a big name for a big episode.
Thank you.
But it kind of brought me back to my single life and dating. Getting you here was a challenge, and I don't know why, but it turned me on.
Where are you going with this?
It turned me on. I loved it. Like I love the fact that, for the listeners that don't know, I actually posted a picture of me and Kevin on Instagram and I put a question mark. Should we have him as episode 400? And I got people to vote on it, which ultimately got you here. So I love how we ended up here, and I'm excited because you just have done so much. And
people should try that on a dating app. Say, should we date? Should we match? And let's see what people say.
Let the public know. Yeah, for sure. Well, man, I love it because you've you kind of have this three-prong expertise. You have investments, you've been the banker for basically a career, and you've been this huge producer as a broker as in a whole nother career. I think I've listened to previous interviews. You've retired a bunch of times already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's kind of start back in the beginning around the lending side of things, because that seems like that was the first thing you got into. What's different back then versus when you got into the game of lending versus what people experience now?
Okay, so today we have social media, which changed the platform a lot. But back then, as loan officers, in order for us to get business, we would take rate sheets and we would print them out in different colors.
Give us a year for context.
1991. Okay, so 91 when I started. Like I said, the way you would develop your business is you would go into real estate offices, drop off rate sheets. Hopefully you're competitive, bring donuts, get past the receptionist, whatever. Make small talk and hopefully gain relationships. I don't like people that way in the sense that I'm not one to make small talk. I don't engage disingenuous, which I felt that was. I was looking to get business. I was relying on them to give me business. So I decided, hey, let me think about how I can make this work for me. So what I did was there was a gentleman retiring from the restaurant employees union, the president, Jewel Fyerson. I hired him as my business development manager. And what he did was he got me in front of all the unions in the city of Chicago. And what I did was set up mortgage programs specifically for that union. Back then we had beepers. And so each union had the same number with the exception of the last three numbers. So when they called us, we knew which union, and we would answer, good afternoon, this is Kevin Rocio, United Postal Workers Mortgage Program. And that's how the conversation starts. So built this business. It became a division of First Home Mortgage, which was the Manglardi's at the time. We ended up selling to American Home Mortgage in 2000. I left there, went to WAMU, but always had this following of union. So I would take the client to the realtor and say, they're approved, help them find a house. And that's how I developed the relationship with realtors. So I gave them something, and then they came to me to try to get more, and that was basically it. So in 2007, I was interviewed by Real Estate Journal magazine, and at that point, I wasn't excited about the business anymore. I felt that I might refer to it, pigs were getting fat, and the hogs are about to get slaughtered, And so January 2008. After spending the weekend in Vegas for New Year's, I came back, sat at my laptop, wrote a letter of resignation to the chairman of National City Mortgage as we were about to be sold to PNC, and walked away from lending and never looked back.
So real quick, that's the timing on that's awesome. Like you did 17 years of grinding it out, and then right before it goes bananas,
like the bottom of the market all the way to the top.
Were you the cause of the crash?
No. Probably if you ask the people at WAMU, no, I'm just kidding. So then, so I took a year off because I was trying to decide what that next chapter was going to be. During the time as a lender, I was also doing ground-up affordable new construction housing. So our biggest success story, we did new homes for Inglewood and Inglewood. We were slated to do 192 single-family homes and 47 two-flats. I think we were able to deliver only 45 single-family homes and maybe 22 flats. And so I wanted to stay in real estate, but I did not want to be on the residential side. That's just not for me. And so I remember having a meeting with Thad Wong and Mike Golden, and they were saying, hey, we have this commercial division. You should come work for us.
For context, they're the owners.
The owners of At Properties, Christie's International Real Estate. I said, I know nothing about commercial real estate. And do you have a training program? No, we do not. I said, okay, well, I tell you what. Let me also put this in context. The reason why the conversation was with them is because they were doing a lot of condo conversions, and I was always one of the investors in one of the properties. So I was working with their team when they were at Property Consultants and then at Properties. So I said, let me go work for a national firm, and I'll come back in 2 years. So in 2009, I went to work for Marcus & Millichap. It was November 9th, 2009. I was back at App Properties, October 11th, 2011. And I came to App Properties as the multifamily specialist. Back then, I think there was 1,100 brokers, residential brokers, and the plan was you do your residential, and then if you have clients that are looking to do investment properties, 5+ or greater, refer them to Kevin, and that's how we built the business. So that's still true to this day, but now we've expanded. We do landlord tenant rep, and we do commercial sales as well. But our business is 90% driven by the real estate community, not only within that properties, but with other firms as well.
So you found two of the most relationship-driven businesses not liking small talk.
That's why I didn't go to residential side.
It's huge.
Yeah, I want to go back to kind of piggyback on that comment. Why did you go into lending in the first place? Right, you found your own niche. You did a great job, but like, why was that? Like,
Very good question. Okay, so before it was known as subpar lending, it was called alternative credit. It was alternative credit.
ooh, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's how the game worked. Back then, think about most union workers. They're blue collar. Mostly they're gonna be highly leveraged. So what we would do is you come in and you say, hey, I'm 3 months behind on my mortgage, my car payment, whatever. So we would still be able to get you a loan today at a higher rate, but you make 12 payments on time, and we sit back down with us in the 11th month, and as we make and you're making that final payment, and we will put you back into conventional financing. So it was sort of a two-step. So every client that came to us, for the most part, there was 2 transactions involved. Didn't matter whether it was a purchase or refi on the onset. Typically, the game was always to get back into conventional financing. And so I felt I was doing something of value, offering something of value. Because usually back then, it was pretty much credit unions that would provide these types of loans. You couldn't go to Chase. You couldn't go to First National Bank. You couldn't go to LaSalle. It was your credit unions that most unions had. But they didn't have an expansive litany of loan programs. Because I remember Ford Motor Company used to have a mortgage division. A lot of people didn't know it, and it's just for cars. They not only did they do cars, but they did houses as well. So they were one of our conduits that we were able to do a lot of mortgages with. And the same thing here on the residential side. I cannot walk in, take someone around, looking at places, and hear them say, "Oh, I don't like the color." Okay, all right.
I'm with you.
Okay, I walk in and I say, "How much can I get for rent for this?" As is, it's a different mindset, and I knew that because over the 17 years lending, I would hear this conversation and I'm like, "You are concentrating on the wrong thing." Okay,
Well, that's awesome. And then let's talk about the transition from lending, because to build up a book of business over 17 years, it's really easy to be like, all right, I'm in the clear, right? Like, even if I don't love this anymore, like you're financially set. So to stop that and then go take on another endeavor, like, just talk about that mindset. Because a lot of people are saying they just want to get to that first 17 years in business. Everyone's just trying to get to that.
It's funny you should ask that question. So that book is still with me today, and I'll explain how. So when I decided to retire, I picked out an individual who I've had the utmost respect for, a young mortgage lender that was just starting out. I sat down with him and I said, I'm going to refer this book to you. Never have anyone call me to complain. They never did. And they are very successful today in this town. But the irony of it is, I still get calls today from people that I've done mortgages for in years. And one happened in November of last year. The last one was in November last year. So here's how the call went. Hey, my wife and I are finally thinking about refinancing the house. I know you're not in the business anymore, but could you recommend someone? And I was shocked, and I was shocked for the following reason. You know as well as I do, all they had to do was go outside, go to the neighbor to the left or go to the neighbor to the right and ask who did they use. But they decided to call me. They said, we found you. I said, how'd you get my number? Oh, we looked you up on LinkedIn and we got your new number. And that was important to me. And I said, that is what I hold near and dear. Kanye West, when he was Kanye West, made a comment that I will always hold near and dear to me. If your friends can't use you, you are useless. And so for everyone around me that's in my sphere, you know, if I can't make an introduction, and I'm not looking for, hey, if I introduce you so-and-so, I want to get a no, that's not what this is about, all right? We become trusted advisors, and the only way that you can be a trusted advisor is to be trustworthy. And so that's the fact that they did that just solidified that thought in my mind.
I love it. I don't know where you're on the spectrum, but for me, I'm similar where I struggle with small talk. It wears me out. It makes me very tired. Like if we just went back and forth on BS right here, I'd be tired by the end of this conversation. But what I've found, and it sounds like I'm doing exactly your playbook, is I found a way to gamify it where it's like, if I can find a way to add you value, now all of a sudden I get the kicks, or I get the excitement, or I get the pleasure out of adding value to you, knowing that somewhere in the world it's going to come back to me. But you know, we're in the I got a guy city.
Exactly.
And that's what I've always, even from a teenager point, like,
I mean, you'd be surprised. Realtors from other companies will reach out to me and say, hey, do you have a commercial inspector? Hey, do you have this? Hey, do you have that? And I send it to them. And like, I'm going to throw out someone no, I won't throw out, but someone called and texted me yesterday, and she goes, I'm sorry to bother you again. I go, you're not bothering me. You know, it's no big deal. But, you know, but the fact that, and I couldn't give her this answer, so I referred her to Moses Hall, who's another, he's another person. So that's what I'm saying. You know, we're here to help other people grow their business. You know, there's like, look at this table. There's still room for others to sit here. And that's the mindset you should always have.
hey, have you ever noticed about this table? This is just a door. Yeah, this is a door. So we made this trying to be scrappy back in the day. This is literally a solid core door.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Going back to your comment, though, that is something that you and I, like when we go to these meetups, like we are both very bad at small talk. And one of the first times we met was, that's when I just had my hip surgery. And you were like, we had like a 30-minute discussion about having like metal in your body. Like we just went down this like weird rabbit hole.
You know him.
Yeah.
But we have to. Like for me, I have to get curious
You
to
have
be
to
able to
ask
stay
25
interested.
questions. And I was like, dude, I don't know. Leave me alone. I'm limping around. Freaking weirdo.
But yeah, it wears the heck out of me. Even just like even if I'm going to give a presentation, right? You get invited, we get the opportunity to do that. You go out there for an hour. If I don't feel I'm genuinely giving solid quality value to the people out there, it wears me out.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I've gone to events, and I've toned myself down a little bit, because I remember one event I made a woman cry, and I did not mean to do this. It was for one of the magazines, and it was an event they were having. This woman comes up to me, and she just starts talking, and I said, stop. I said, excuse me, let me stop you for a second. I said, please do not take offense, but I'm really not engaged in this conversation. And she's like, pardon me? I said, you will not remember me tomorrow. So why are we doing this? And she looked at me, she goes, why are you being an ass? I was like,
I was gonna say, that's beautiful.
and I'm like, I'm not. I said, listen, I don't know you. And I can't even remember your name. Okay. Well, your name is Kevin. I'm like, okay. I'm like, sorry. Then her husband comes over, and he goes, is there something wrong, honey? She, this dude's being an ass. And she started crying. He looks at me. I go, bro, I just don't want to have a conversation right now. And I just turned and walked away. And that was it. But after that, that was the first time I made someone cry. And I said, okay, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit.
That's fantastic.
But, you know, it is what it is. I'm like, if you remember Sheldon from Big Bang,
Yeah.
that's me.
All right, there you go.
I'm the nerd. I'm that nerd. All right, in a suit.
I think I heard you say something like, I don't like people, I like numbers. And
That's it.
I can relate to that,
Yeah.
because that just becomes very factual
Absolutely.
type stuff.
Absolutely. And that's I'm not here to small talk. I'm here to provide a service. And so I will analyze till the cows come home. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about whether or not I like that blue shirt. Why do you have 312? Why not 773?
All right, so we kind of just glazed over this, like, oh yeah, from '08 to this, I just met up with these two other big shots, and we started killing it. But walk us through, like, call it, the years 2009 to 2000, whatever, 13, 15, like.
You learned the entire business.
Yeah, like.
So the 2009 was a very great time to enter this business, because if you think about where the market was, it was hurting, and I think everybody was looking for something. And so here I come along, and I said, hey, I can do multifamily, and hey, I can help you grow your business, as a real estate.
And everyone else had their head in the sand. Like, it's so easy to say this now, like after the fact, but at the time, no one was doing that.
No, and so what I did is that I said all you have to do is go to your database, and maybe they're not buying a house or anything, but just hey, I want you to know that I'm still here. By the way, we have a commercial division, so if you're a business or anything, or you're looking for investment properties, we have a great guy that just came over from a national firm that's working with us. I'll be more than happy to make the introduction. And so it was like clockwork. And so that's exactly how the conversation started. And then, I did a couple articles for Carr on how to grow your business with this second pillar. Because the one thing about commercial real estate that a lot of residential brokers don't think about, especially in the Chicago market where you have a lot of entrepreneurs, they probably, if they're self-employed, they have a business, they probably rented a commercial space. They probably have employees. So, a lot of times you think about the transaction in front of you without asking the question, can I help anyone else? I see that you're bringing true story. And I see that we're helping you find a house here in Chicago. You're relocating your business here. Have you gotten a tenant rep to help you? No, I haven't. Great. Let me introduce you to Kevin Rocio and his team. Okay. During the conversation I'm having with them, how many employees are you looking to bring? And so, we're relocating 50. I go back to the agent. Hey, all 50 of our employees are coming, so they're going to need rental or housing. It goes back and forth, and that's how this business continues to be a circle. And, and not everyone maybe want to buy multifamily, but a lot of times they're expanding to a second location or what have you. And I just teach the agents to ask the question, do you have any commercial real estate needs? And that's it. And then listen to what they tell you and then move forward.
Yep. Talk to us a little about follow-up. I feel most agents are very bad at that. They ask that question and then they send a Christmas card, right? Like, right. And then on social media, they'll say Happy Flag Day, right? Like the actual follow-up where you're not annoying, you're providing some sort of value, and you're staying top of mind.
So some of the agents, and it's interesting, the higher producing agents understand this. The lower producing agents do not. Okay, so you'll never see me sell a condo. You'll never see me rent an apartment. You'll never see me sell a house. Okay, so that's I'm a specialist and I specialize in one thing. My team does commercial real estate. We do landlord tenant rep. I will never lease a commercial spot. All right. Residential brokers have to get that in their mindset that they should specialize in something and stop trying to be a generalist. Because a lot of times what will happen is they will have a client that says, I want to spend $3 million on a multifamily building. And they're so used to going in MLS and sending them all the buildings that are available for $3 million. Regardless of whether or not what the values are, okay? But if you make the introduction to a commercial broker, it doesn't have to be me. It could be anybody in your firm that's a commercial broker who specializes. Because what they're going to do is they're going to pull that same report, but they're going to analyze each of these buildings up front, and then they're going to weed out the ones that are not worth $3 million, and they're going to send a report back to the potential buyer with the underwriting and say, here, I underwrote this one. This one we could probably get for $2.9 million. This one we could probably get. This one's actually undervalued, and here's why. With a deal story. That's how you do this. And so, in terms of follow up, now I teach them to just make the introduction. So whether it's a text, whether it's an email, they introduce me to their client. I reciprocate a return response, and then I take control. And I take control from beginning to end, and I keep them in the loop. A lot of times, because I don't like to come to the city anymore, I partner with them now where I have them do the actual showings. Because, one of the things I was taught as a lender is, and most lenders will agree, they never look at every property they finance. It's all, the internet, and I can Google down and look at the building, and I can read financial statements. So I can read an appraisal, I can read an inspection report and tell what's wrong with the building. I don't need to be there physically touching and eyeballing it. All right. So my follow-up, I stay in touch. And then even if they don't buy today, if we still, I'm working with one client that I think we're on year 3 right now. And we've looked at a lot of things, but we've just not found anything that really makes them want to pull the trigger. That's okay. We keep going. My database is 19,000 people, of which 7,000 was from the lending days.
You had a thought I heard on a previous episode around why there's so many 3, 4, 5, 6 unit listing cancellations in the MLS at any given time. You want to share that?
Yes. Oh, I love it. So this goes. So in 2020 during COVID, most agents weren't working. So I said, okay, I got to figure out something way to keep it, stay in front of them. So I was actually looking for a particular property. I was looking for a three flat up in West Ridge, Rogers Park. And so I just ran a report of what was available, and I was like, this stuff is crap. So I said, let me see what's expired, because then I can pick up a phone. And then I noticed there was like 300 and some expirations from 2019 to 2020. And I'm like, what the hell? And so then I started looking at some of them, and I realized these numbers do not make sense, because here's what happens on 2 to 4 unit buildings. They use the residential approach. They pull a CMA that says these 3 units sold for this and this and this, and that is not how you analyze and determine value for 3 flats, 2 to 4 units, because they are investment properties first that you are allowed to live in second. All right, and so, if you're representing a buyer, that you may get away with that, but for an investor, no. So I decided, you know what? If I can't beat them, let me manage them. So I said, let me teach them the proper way to underwrite 2 to 4 units to determine the price. Because all I want them to do is put in the MLS properly, so I'll have something to sell. All right. And I said, because you're helping me, I'm helping you. So I started doing this class, and at first, I was doing it just for app property agents, and then I started getting other agents from other firms. So I started charging them, and then in 2021, I said, you know what? I'm not going to charge them. If they reach out, I'll teach them. If they want to spend an hour with me, I'll take the hour. And that was the smartest thing I did. I think now I've taught over 2,000 agents. Whether or not they're using it, I will say this. The number of expired listings have gone down. So I think maybe, maybe. And I love seeing success stories with young agents when I see I've taught them, and then they've taken on their first 2 to 4 and they have success with it and everything. It makes me feel good, because I said, yeah, that was me. So
What if you can share a little nugget from that class? What's maybe 1 or 2 things that stand out?
The main thing is residential brokers, for some reason, are always taught to ask, what's the cap rate? Okay. 2 to 4 unit buildings, you cannot use the cap rate. Yeah. Cap rate is not, from an investor, I can run a model to see what my rate of return is, but that's my model. That's not how you base pricing. Your pricing should always be based on the gross rent multiplier. And that's what I teach in class. And I teach the difference between gross rent multiplier and cap rates, which are applied for commercial properties. And so the most common question is, well, what's the gross rent multiplier and why? Okay, so the reason why you use a gross rent multiplier versus cap rate in 2 to 4 unit buildings is because, as I said before, a 2 to 4 unit building you are allowed to live in. And the cost to operate a 2 to 4 unit owner-occupied building is different than a 2 to 4 investment property. And so if you base your numbers on a 2 to 4 unit owner-occupant and you price it accordingly, the numbers don't make sense for an investor. So you have to base, for example.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, because we have a lot of people in both camps.
Yeah.
To be clear, owner occupied 2 to 4 units is still a great play.
It gets
you out of renting.
It's a great play. Most likely you're going to pay more.
Correct.
And that's the problem. So you're going to base your pricing on a 2 to 4 owner occupied building. And so now you've knocked the investors out, because those numbers don't work. For example, you have taxes. If you are an investor, you are taxed at the highest rate. If you're owner occupied, you have a homeowner's exemption. If you are a senior, you have senior freeze or senior exemption. And if you're basing your sales price on the current condition of that building, you're doing a disservice. Yep. And so I go in depth on how so they understand it. Your insurance costs. Your insurance cost as an investor is different, about $800 a door, versus if you live there, which is about $450 a door. Yep. That's a difference.
Yep. And when you're using the gross rent multiplier, how are you using so let's say the rents it's 3 unit building, it's $6,000 a month in rent.
So what I'll do is I'll pull closed comps similar to the building that we're trying to price, and I will
average those,
and I'll average those the GRMs, and then come up with a suggested price to bring to market, which is an average of the GRM for the area. And the reason why I do that is because an owner occupant will pay more, so you may go above that suggested list price. An investor most likely will stay right there, or they will run their own analysis, and they're probably going to pull the same comps, and they're going to say, well, the average is 14 times gross rents, but I see a lot of them are there's a few at 16. I'll go to 15. Yep. Okay? All your job is, as a real estate broker, is to bring all the kids to the yard. Okay? It's the milkshake theory. Okay? All right. That's all it is. You want to bring everybody because every market, every camp. All right? Because then you let them and their personal financials drive the price up. You don't start high and then come down. And a lot of times when I meet with buyer or sellers, they're like, why would you do that? What, you leave money at the table? No, you're letting the market drive you up. So, and it's very typical. If you pull my closings for 2 to 4 unit buildings, I'm typically 30, 40, 50. I think the highest one I've done was 100, 125 above suggested list. And people say, well, you got lucky. I didn't get lucky, okay? Because had I priced it up here, I would have only been waiting for that one person. Down here, we had 47 people. I mean, I think we had 90 people show up over 2 days to tour the building because everybody thought it was a great value. And then once they got in, it was even better value than what they thought.
Yep. I want to go back real quick because some of our listeners might not be familiar with GRM. So going back to, you have a 3 unit, all the rents are $2,000, it's $6,000 a month, so it's $72,000 a year. If the GRM for that area
is 10, 720,000 is what it's worth.
Correct. And you get that by looking at the other comps in the area. It's a very, and you can correct me, in my head, it's a very like down and dirty way to just get to a nice average there. Okay. Has a lot of benefits. The two things to quote unquote watch out for is nuances and expenses. Yep. So in our area, it's a boiler building versus forced air.
When I say, then that's a very good point. When I said similar comps, don't pull a boiler building to compare to a forced air. They all have to be one and the same. Yep. Same bedroom count, same bathroom count, same number of parking spaces, whether it's surface or garage. Okay, they count the same. Those are the areas I look for, and then the mechanicals.
Yep. And then you as an investor also have to be thinking, because on a 3 unit, like if one of the rents is well above market because it's subsidized or whatever, or it's well below because they've been there for 10 years, you got to do that math because it'll sway the equation a lot.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you only have 3 tenants.
And that's why I say you have to look at what the other buildings, because if you do have a subsidized tenant, that number is going to skew. So I always say, what does the market bear?
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, for our listeners out there, I feel like just wanted to take one more step.
That's a whole class. If you guys want to take the class.
We're just giving you that teaser, baby. There's more. So, all right. So what's happened then? Let's keep going down the timeline here. We got to 2018-ish. Like, what COVID hits? How do you pivot? How's the business change?
COVID was one of the best things that happened for my business. And I think a lot of agents can say this. So before, it was take a listing, photos, you have to prepare an offer memorandum. You have to go meet, walk the property, show the property, what have you. During COVID, we did no tours. Everything was virtual. Closings, we didn't have to go to every closing. Didn't have to worry about picking checks. It streamlined everything. So now this new process, like I said, I very rarely tour the properties with clients. A lot of my clients are from out of state, and so, and even local. Like I've had people that bought in Rockford that live in Downers Grove. They never went to see the building. They property management and all that. The mindset differs or changed. So we just streamlined the process, and we're not touchy-feely as much anymore. And that's what I really like. So, I still do my offer memorandums. I send them out. We do a virtual tour. We do video tours of the building. And very rarely do people have to really now go out and actually touch. And I think a lot of that changed with COVID.
How many people have you helped over the years? Like, if you had to put a number on it, from the lending days to now to the classes, like how many thousands are we at?
In lending, I know I have 7,000 plus because because that was how big the database was when I left, when I gave it to the other person. I would say in commercial real estate, probably close to only, surprisingly, I would say 1,000. Yeah, it's a little over 1,000. The dollar sizes are bigger, but yeah, I think because we probably do about 20 to 30 transactions a year. In 22, I think we did 50, and then we refer out. So we refer out.
I mean, 8,000 though, that's a legit suburb,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a lot of people.
Well, so Chicago Social Magazine, I think it was in 97, coined me Chicago's mortgage specialist because in 2007, I was the 4th largest lender in the country for alternative credit. So it was Wells Fargo, Old Stone Bank, somebody else, and then my team. And it was crazy. That was just a crazy thing. Never touched that ever again, but it's one of my claims from
That's awesome.
97. So I enjoy the growth, the slow growth, and in the sense that while we only have done maybe 1,000 transactions on the commercial side, we refer out about $7 to $10 million a year in residential business back to the community. And so that business as well. And what I love is, like, for example, I think last year, and I always joke about this, last year we did 28 transactions, but I was paid 71 times.
Well, you got the model figured out. Okay. That's
All right. Because there was 40-some referrals that went out. Because the one thing about commercial real estate, and I would implore every residential broker to partner with a commercial broker. Why? Because that commercial broker could look to you for commercial business, but every one of his commercial clients have a housing need, whether it's a rental, second home, investment. Okay.
yeah, that's fantastic.
You guys have properties that you own, apartment buildings, stuff like that. How does being an investor and a broker, or vice versa, how do they play into each other?
My family owns about 2,000 doors across the United States. Matter of fact, someone's in Boston right now, and I was joking because she's like, "I didn't know you guys own these properties here." And like, you never ask. But we don't own anything in Illinois, and the reason why is because I never wanted to give the perception of a potential conflict of interest. So we built our business. We are from Detroit, Boston, Florida, Atlanta, Vegas, and Palm Desert. And so we're spread out, a lot of condos. But in Detroit, we have 2 high rises. So, but it doesn't compete. But what it does, where it's a value is that I can speak from an ownership standpoint. And so I can understand the pain points. So when people have certain concerns, I can draw on my own personal experiences to say, this is how we overcame that similar issue. Tenancy is one of the biggest things. Chicago has a tougher tenancy than everywhere else, but it's manageable.
I think that helps me with property management. I was on the phone with someone this morning. I'm like, listen, I know how you feel right now. Like, this
Yeah,
hurts.
I know that emotion.
Like, I can't even deny like how I feel. And this is why we're gonna go this way, because this is what helped me before. So,
Yeah. When did you start investing? Like, what part of the journey?
So the year was 1984.
Oh, so early on.
So I was into my college years.
that's a big year for me. I just got potty trained. That's a big year. Big year.
So I was.
You were 7.
No, 83. No.
He started doing
Oh, no, did I screw that one up?
Oh my
For the
god!
listeners, I was 2. All right.
So I was. I was going to Elmhurst, and I joined a fraternity, and so part of to get the fraternity experience, I decided to move on campus, because prior to that, I was living at home and I would commute. So I moved on campus into a dorm with 3 other roommates. It was a suite. It was 2 in each suite, joined by a bathroom. And please do not laugh, but I said to myself, these closets are too small. All right. So the next year, I decided to buy my first condo, and I bought it in Lisle. All in, monthly cost was $247. That included taxes, insurance, mortgage, and assessment. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, living room, dining room.
And you probably felt like you overpaid at the time.
Eat-in kitchen, And I rented the second bedroom and second bathroom for $400 a month to a student that was going to North Central. Okay, so I was like, wow, I got gas money and drink money. I mean, it was crazy. So then I said, I wonder if I can do this again. All right, and this is before I was in mortgages, but I studied finance, so this is what led me into mortgage career. So then I said, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see if I can do it next year. So then next year I bought one in Lombard. So So then I rented out the 2 units or 2 bedrooms in Lisle at $800 a month, and my mortgage was $247. And so then I moved into Lombard, and I think that one was a $35,000 purchase, whereas the other one was $24,000. And I moved into one, rented out the other, and then senior year did it again. So when I moved to California, I had these 3 properties, and I lived in California, and I was working for an investment banking firm training program, and I was able to pay for my rent and everything while I studied. And that's how the game began.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And on top of that, like, just it goes back to time is your biggest asset. Like, you were winning on day one there, but then it just keeps getting better and better and better over time.
You have spent a lot of your time giving back to other people. I'll use words specifically mentorship. I know some of the people that you do mentor. Where's the mindset? Why did you get into that? Or who was your kind of mentor growing up, I guess, and what'd you value in one?
I never really had a mentor, but I did have people that opened the door for me. So think about it, as an African American man in the early 80s, it was were not a lot of overt opportunities, but there was a lot of gentlemen and ladies that opened the door. One of the examples is when I started college, I was working as a stock boy at Osco Drug in Hillside. And do you remember the Atari and the Commodore?
Yeah.
Okay. So when they first came out, I was the marketing person for Osco. So I would go around to all the Osco drugs and have the display and tell people about this. So I was at the one on the Joel Osco in Lawrence and Cumberland. And this little short...
The Jewel is still there. The
Is it really?
Jewel's still there. The Osco is across the street.
Oh, is it really?
And
Okay.
that's a CVS
And
now.
that's a CVS now. So I was there, and this little short white lady comes in, and she's like, tell me about this. And she's watching me, and she went and got her groceries, and then she came back, and she just, watched. She's like, said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 18. And she said, how did you learn this? And I'm like, well, I don't know the shit I told her then. But anyway, she said, are you in school? I said, yeah, I'm in freshman year in college, about to go into my sophomore year. She says, I want you to come to my office. She goes, I think you'd be good on the phones. And I said, okay. And this is the funniest story ever, ever, ever. So she gives me her card, and I'm not going to say the name of the company yet. I go home and I said, Ma, this lady wants me to come to her office in Oak Brook. And I show her the card. She goes, for what? Your mom being protective. I said, I don't know. She just said I sound good. She thinks I sound good on the phones. And she goes, this might be a scam, okay? I'm like, Ma, I'll go. I said, but I need to get an outfit. Okay, let's go shopping. So we go to Madigan's. Store doesn't exist anymore. Here's my outfit. Corduroys, this color. Okay. Cowboy boots or the low heel cowboy boots to match. Okay. Black shirt, purple tie.
I'd hire you.
I thought I was styling. Okay, what did I know? So I walk up at 2707 West Butterfield Road. I walk into the building. And I never forget, people are looking at me like, and I'm like, I'm here to see Gene Prosky. And they're like, okay. And she comes out, and she takes me in the office. She starts talking to me and everything. And then, like this, gives me a mic, and she says, I'm going to give you a script to read, and I just want you to read the script. And they were recording it because they wanted to hear how on the other end. So that was just, she says, okay, I'll be in touch in a week or so. So I remember a week goes by, I don't hear anything. Another week goes by. And then my mom said, that lady called. And so I called her back. She goes, I think you'll do great in our telemarketing division, department, and we would like to hire you. And she said, but we're going to have to send you to Montville, New Jersey for a week to learn the company culture and to learn how to dress the IBM way. And that was my job. And so I went from Osco to IBM.
Wow.
Okay.
She said dress?
So IBM had a
This
program.
is also all because of Atari.
Yeah, it was all Atari. But so they had a IBM had a school for when they hire system engineers and salespeople. You spend a week in Montville, New Jersey. You learn all the things you need to learn, but 2 days are spent on how to dress the IBM way, how to pick suits, what colors, and navy blue versus dark blue, and all. I mean, it was crazy. But that's how that changed my whole perception, and it also got me in front of people that keep in mind now. I think I'm 19 or 20 years old, and I'm around people that are just way light years ahead of me. Fast track there, and then I left IBM in '89 as I was getting ready to go to California. But by that time, I was doing financial forecasting for the National Account Division, which was also on the top floor at 2707. So that's what got me from sales to finance. Because my background my degree is finance and international economics.
Yeah, but man, like the moral of the story here is like you put yourself in those positions. Like you could have just been half-assing it at your job. You didn't. Like you could have just said, the class is too small, I'm staying with my roommates. You didn't, right? Like you took actions that led to things that eventually changed your life.
Well, here's the thing, and I'll use guys like Aram, Mark. Back then that was my way to grow. My mom was a letter carrier. So she's seen things now that she never would have envisioned as, a little young black girl from Mississippi who came up here to be a letter carrier. It's different. So that was my driving force was always to retire her as quickly as I could, and be the best son for a single parent that I could. And that's what always drove me. And that's what still drives me. Even to this day, I never want to disappoint her. And I love to see her. I love when she brags about me. So
It never goes away.
never goes away. No. So no matter what I do, I try to be the best version that I can be because I call it for whatever. The expectations are not there, for the general public. So I try to blow people's mind, if that makes sense.
There's a lot of young people looking to get into real estate, specifically here in Chicago, and they use that word mentor all the time. What should somebody be looking for if they're looking for guidance?
Another great question. So people started coming to me years ago and they would say, will you mentor me? And I'd say no, because I thought it was a full-time job, if that made sense. Mentorship comes in different forms, and you have to decide what you need that mentor for, and then seek out a mentor that could fulfill that. So for some, I'm simply a sounding board, when they're trying to make decisions, whether personal or in their business, I can say, here's, based on my experience or whatever. Others really want to, they say, I want to get into commercial real estate. Will you mentor me? And I say, I can't. I will fail you, because I can't dedicate the time to teach you the fundamentals of commercial real estate. You need there needs to be a structured training program. CCIM has a great program for someone who wants to learn and become a commercial practitioner, but unfortunately, you have to have a certain level of success before you can enter the program. So it makes the barrier to entry difficult. There are other programs that are around. Car does a terrible job with it, and they know I voice it all the time. I said, as a residential broker, you are allowed to sell anything you want as long as there's a form for it. All right. Whether you know what you're selling or not, all right? Me, I can't. I can't. I would be my fiduciary responsibility to the residential buyer. I don't know anything about tuck or brick, whatever. You know what I mean? It's different. So I always tell the young people, first, you have to take it upon yourself to get educated. And so seek out the courses. There are some online courses that you can take. But I would say, go to a program, go to a firm that has a structured commercial training program. From there will be mentors there. Network, get out there and be in front of people. Go to all the events. Seek out someone, whether it's Moses, whether it's me, Tony Hardy, whoever. We are out there, and we will help. I don't think we can do what a traditional mentor does, but we can be that sounding board for you. Okay. One of the things I love, though, being in this business, I can't tell you how many residential brokers I help with their investment purchases, and to me, I'm mentoring them from a transactional standpoint because then they learn and they move on.
I think there's a lot of parallels between lending, commercial or residential real estate. What are, obviously you build skills over time, but what are some of the qualities, like if someone's looking to get into, like you're not going to make it if you don't have this?
If you do not know numbers, if you are not analytical and you have to separate, I'll just take the listing from whether or not, the numbers make sense. I'd say no to a lot of things a lot of times. There's one just said no to about 2 weeks ago, and it just came on the market $200,000 higher than where I said it would be because that's what the seller wants, and we'll see what happens. But you got to know when to say no. And so the skill set is you have to understand finance, and if you don't, you should not be doing investment properties. Because a lot of times residential brokers, I think what they do is they rely just on the buyer to do the due diligence of their own. No,
Yeah, open the door for you. I'll write the contracts, call it a day.
Right. That's not it. That's not how this works, okay? Because someone who's buying their first commercial property are looking to you as someone with guidance to say whether or not they overpay. I see it time and time again on the south sides particularly. I will see buildings sell today, and they will be back in the market a year from now, because the numbers just didn't work. They didn't work when they bought it, but unfortunately, they weren't smart enough to see that. They relied on their broker.
I see you in social media stuff you post. I see you at all these different events all the time on social media. Other people post and tag you on. What's the importance of just being out there in that sense?
I'm not out there as much as you may think.
Well, my algorithms got
But
you in my
it's
books.
crazy. so here's the thing. I am home every night by 8:30. Okay, and like this week, I'm not in the city at all. This other than the showing tomorrow. I will be in the city next week for one event. I'm very selective at the events that I go to. I get invited to, I can't tell you how many open houses and what have you. I go when I think I can be of value to the people that are going. To just show up at some random house in Portage Park, what am I there for? Okay, but like I recently came to Debbie Dowell's event, which was downtown in River North. Because I know that building. I know the building well. I knew it from when it was going to be condos, and then we're going to make it apartments, and then they said, and now here it is now. So I went there to support her and to support that event. There's a networking group that I'm part of. We do 3 or 4 parties a year, and it's a very cool concept in the sense that we invite people from tech, from legal, from finance, and from real estate, medical. And it started like this. Hey, you have a group of friends that have never met my friends, have never met your friends. Let's have a party, invite all our friends, let them connect. And that's how I do it, and that has grown to, where people are sponsors are coming to us to say they want to sponsor the event, but it just started in that concept. So when I'm out, I'm out in these selective events for the networking possibilities, I love meeting new people that are like-minded, but you won't see me at some street fest.
That's one of the biggest values you can bring to people is the right introduction to somebody else. Like that's huge.
Yep. Kevin, you've done a ton. What's next? What do the next 5 years look like? What are the
more of the same? Just more of the same. We just wake up every day and we say, what can we accomplish today? And that's it. No big mystery. It's still relatively young, and so as long as I can wake up and go, I will continue to wake up and go.
What's your competitive advantage? How have you been able to do this while so many other people wish they could do what you've done?
I would say because I don't care. And when people say, what do you mean I don't care? I don't care if a deal closes or not. I want to make sure it closes for the right reasons. And so I'm not here to make a sale. And I think that's one of the biggest differences, because a lot of people can tell when they're being sold.
That's the true definition of brokerage, is bringing 2 people together and not the sales part.
All right. You've already provided a ton of great advice. What is the one piece of advice you would tell someone that has yet to buy their first property in the Chicagoland area?
Study the neighborhoods, because each neighborhood has its own idiosyncrasies. The area around the 606 right now is a nightmare. And I just had someone, just text me on the way here. understand the demographics, because if you don't, you get hurt that way. And don't buy into these. I'd say don't buy into these new buildings, these new construction buildings that are recently rented. Buy something with history, unless you're going to live there.
What do you do for fun?
My dog and my mom. That's it. So,
What kind of dog?
Do you want to switch the order? I'm kidding.
No, I have a Cocker Spaniel and a King Charles Cavalier, Kobe and Kid Rock.
Oh, those are great names.
I'm very, like, when I'm away from all of this, I'm still that nerd that reads a lot, and I do read an awful lot. And I read everything except for sports. But I have like stacks. Like, I'll print out everything this morning, and I'll spend like an hour and a half before I go to bed, and I'll read and get caught up.
Oh man, so that's a good transition. So our next question is: give us either a good book, podcast, or self-development activity you'd recommend to our listeners.
So I have none of the above. I don't. I know. So what I read, let me tell you what I read. So I will read whether it's Illinois Business Journal, Real Deal, things like that, or like not Chicago Agent, but Chicago Magazine, and Crane's Chicago Business. So I print all that out and I read. That's how I get caught up on the day, But I don't read like self help. I used to read a lot of the greatest salesman in the world. Dino. I mean, that was how it started. That was my first book I ever read, and then there's no. And I'm terrible. I have a stack of books I've bought, but I haven't written. I haven't read them yet. Like B is one of them. And I haven't read it yet.
I have been reading Crane since I was 17. If anything, that really got me motivated to do something in Chicago. Like
Absolutely,
they just have such like great of what's going on with the heart of the city.
And then for people that don't know, every Sunday they send you a link for the magazine, so you don't even have to. You could just sit there. So I start on Sunday and stop on page 3, go to, and it's crazy, but it's a great thing. And I get that and I do that for here, for Detroit, and then for Boston, Florida. I get Palm Beach Journal. So yeah, I read.
All right. Other than yourself, give us a valuable resource you can refer to other Chicago real estate investors.
I would say Moses Hall, Dina Zimmerman, if you know Dina Zimmerman. So she's with SVN. She does a lot of landlord tenant rep, and then Nate Grill, who's on my team, that also does landlord tenant rep. Mike Levin is one of the greatest commercial brokers for the North Shore. He probably, he's probably one of the greatest guys ever. I talk to him almost every other day. Yeah, but if you have a commercial real estate property up there on the North Shore, he's the guy that they should call.
Might have to take some introductions there. We've had Moses on. I don't know his. We'll link to his show in the show notes. The
Episode blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Episode
Blah 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 blah.
242. All right, Kevin, thank you so much. You provide a ton of value to our listeners. How can they learn more about you? Is there any way they can provide value to you?
K-Rock. You just go to ROC Advisory Group on Instagram, Kevin Rocio on LinkedIn, Kevin Rocio on Facebook.
All right, perfect. We have a Chicago fact here. Mark, who are we playing for and who's sponsoring?
All right. We're playing for Carmela Nozio, who bought a straight up Chicago t-shirt off the merch store. And Carmela, if myself or Kevin gets this question right, you'll get a $50 gift card brought to you by today's sponsor, Pavlicek Architecture.
All right, very good. All right, so Kevin, you mentioned you went to school in Elmhurst, and we saw that in our research here. So our question is, what is the current population of Elmhurst? And your options are 30,000, 45,000, 65,000, 80,000.
30.
I would say 45.
45.
Whoa.
There you go.
You won.
I grew up in Addison, so Elmhurst was always a little bigger than Addison. So, and Addison's 32.
Yeah, we have my wife has a cousin out there, so we spend almost every holiday out. That's like a central point because there's St. Charles people, city people. It's kind of like the nice little.
And that's why we're having the 5-year anniversary
Oh
party.
yeah, that's what we should be talking about. Our 5-year anniversary.
When are you having that?
next Thursday. So
It's done by the time this airs, listeners. So
Yeah,
don't show up
next
to
Thursday.
don't show up to Modern Plate in the middle of June. That has gone and passed.
There you go.
All right. So, Carmela, you get $50 gift card brought to you by today's sponsor, Pavlicek Architecture. So, Kevin, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Tom, thanks always. Listeners, here we are. We're at episode 400. If we're gonna be around to episode 500, we need more gas and we need more guests for that. So when I say gas, refer us out, share us, leave us reviews. That helps put gas in the tank. And if you got more guests, we need 100 more guests to make it to 500. So, Kevin, thank you. Tom, thank you. Listeners, we'll see you for episode 401.